My story today begins with a salmon. In fact, an 11-pound silver salmon from Alaska. I got to this story kind of in a roundabout way. I love to cook, and I don't get to do that very often. My kids are grown, and I'm on the road a lot. This past year, in a management meeting here in Greensboro, I got the chance to entertain my colleagues from Brazil and Chile. Now, I have never had a bad meal while I'm in Brazil and Chile. So this was a little bit challenging for me. What can I cook and get to the table at the same time? Still hot, that is really good. So I picked a pretty simple menu, just a mixed green salad, asparagus wrapped in bacon, some polenta, and some crab cakes made fresh. Thought that would be really easy. Guests came, talking and drinking lots of Chardonnay while we were cooking. Lo and behold, everything was coming together. You can't go wrong with asparagus wrapped in bacon. And the polenta actually was fluffy, right texture. The crab cakes did not fall apart. My backup plan was fettuccine if that didn't work. They didn't fall apart, but I'm looking at, I need something more. So I took out my pride and joy, some salmon. I wrapped it in some herbs, sprinkled some salt, and baked it really slow. Again, got it to the table, all hot and all at one time. Yay. We'd had a pretty formal week, the long dinner served, you sat for a long time. So we were really casual. Everybody was passing around the food, family style, eating whatever they want. And of course, we kept the wine going, lots of good conversation. After one particularly vibrant discussion, I looked around. Yeah, everybody's still got water, wine, everything's going, but the salmon platter was completely empty. And I'm like, uh-oh. So I checked under the table. Nope, the cats weren't there. The dog wasn't there. So yeah, people had really eaten it all. A little bit embarrassing to run out of that, but hey, everybody was having a great time. So all was good. Well, the discussion moved to the salmon, in fact, and someone commented, this tastes a little bit different. What did you do to it? Well, I got this big grin on my face, and I said, yeah, it's different. I actually caught it in Alaska on my last vacation. And there was a little bit of silence at the table, and I couldn't figure it out. Well, one of my friends from Chile, a colleague who's also traveled with me, and she knows how much I love my spa days, she looked at me and she said, you did not catch this fish. You do not fish. And my husband said, oh, yes, she does. She caught all the fish on this trip. My colleague from Chile said, really? You fish? Tell me exactly how you caught this fish. I don't believe you fish. Now, this disbelief, if you don't know me, it might be hard to understand, but fishing is usually thought of as pretty calm, relaxing, tranquil. I don't think those words have ever been used to describe me. I'm a lawyer. I was on the debate team in college. As a child in elementary school, I was always in trouble, talking out of turn, interrupting, fidgeting, getting up, wandering from place to place. I spent more time in the principal's office in elementary school. And Southern girls just don't do that. You do not go to the principal's office on a daily basis. I was very glad to go to middle school and change classes. Otherwise, I would have been classified as a juvenile delinquent. Another Southern girl, no. Anyway, I was first introduced to fishing thanks to A.B. Volvo in Ireland on one of those wonderful week-long management trips where you go all day, meeting to meeting to meeting. But we had one free afternoon. And Ireland is beautiful. My first trip there, green, vibrant, lush. I'm like, okay, I've never fished before. This will be fun. I had grown up with people fishing, but I had never done it. Again, a Southern girl. Baits, worms, you hook. Ugh, that's icky. No, I hadn't done it, but I was going to give it the good old Volvo try. Ireland is beautiful, but unfortunately this day, Ireland was not beautiful. It was cold. It was wet. It was raining and blustery. And we're like, okay, a group of us trekked down to the river. We're handed our rod and reel. We're given these big hooded jackets, kind of slick. And we're given one casting lesson. And I'm like, okay, this looks pretty good. I can do this. Group lesson. Well, I start casting or attempting to cast. I soon realized it's not only upper body strength required, it's also an art. The wrong twist, you're going to hit the rock, you're going to hit the riverbank, you're going to hit the tree, or even worse, you're going to snag a senior AB Volvo executive. And that is not good. But in addition to getting us all the equipment we needed, they also provided us with a ghillie. And a ghillie is a local guide who is very experienced, who knows the river, who knows the fish, who knows what insects they bite and when, depending on when it's cloudy. And most importantly, these ghillies had infinite patience. This ghillie worked with me all afternoon, teaching me how to cast, teaching me again how to cast, teaching me yet again how to cast. And I was successful. Towards the end of the day, I started catching trout. Now, we were catching and release, so I probably caught the same one over and over again. But I was thrilled. I had actually caught trout. This is how my addiction began. Started by AB Volvo. It's all their fault. Anyway, returned to the States, and since then, I've gone fishing many times. In Utah, here in North Carolina, we have great fly fishing nearby. But I've also learned that it requires so much skill, so much concentration. It's all depending on the weather. It's depending on what's happened with the rain. It depends on the local fish, what the insects are. As smart as I am, or I think I am, I will never master this. So I always need a local guide. And I've learned to rely on them. And I've had some of the best times of my life. Even if I come home with absolutely no fish, having snagged none, I come home at the end of the day relaxed, tired, and having a wonderful time. And I'm such a competitive and intense person. My family urges me, go fishing a lot. And they don't want to come. You just go. So thus, my passion is born. Now, my friend from Chile, we're at the dinner table. She said, okay, fine. I know you like to fish. Tell me how you caught this fish. So going to Alaska, I love salmon, and fresh caught salmon is wonderful. So we got out on the charter boat one morning. There's probably about 16 of us. We're south of Anchorage on the Kenai Peninsula in Cook Inlet. We're out in the ocean this time. A little bit different fishing for me. You're supposed to put it in the water. It's supposed to bob kind of like the eels or squids swimming around. People on our boat start having success. I don't. Okay. Some days you go out and you come home with nothing. I understand that. We're about our second spot, maybe our third spot. And I'm sitting here trying to bobble, and the guide looks at me and he says, you've got to bite, hook it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, of course, I try, and of course, I've missed it. And he looks at me and he says, when it bobs slightly like this and it moves to the side, that means a fish is nibbling on it. I'm like, oh, I've had plenty of these. I just thought it was the ocean current. But he says, next time you see that, even if you don't feel it, set your hook. I'm like, sure. Pull it back up. We switched bait. We moved to a little bit different depth. I think we're now about 35 feet deep. Put it in. It bobs. I set it. Reel it up. I have myself my first ever salmon. Now, it's a small one. It's a silver salmon, but it's only cleaned up about 7 pounds. But that's still a pretty good meal. I'm happy. My day is done. Even if I catch nothing else, I've caught a fish from Alaska, and I'm taking it home, and we're going to eat it. Drift a couple more spots, don't catch anything. Drift to our final spot. I'm like, okay, it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm having a great time. We're now 135 feet deep. I'm like, there's not a salmon down there. I don't care what the radar says. I've never heard of a salmon at 135 feet deep in the ocean. I think that's like 40 meters. Like, okay, but I'll stand here, do it. And all of a sudden I feel this snag, and I'm like, I probably got a jellyfish, but I'm going to try anyway. Start trying to bring it up. And my gosh, 135 feet up, trying to reel something up, it takes forever. I'm sure it's only a few minutes. Seems like hours. Oh, it keeps coming, keeps coming. My arms are like spaghetti by the time we get it up. Pull it up, pull it up. And all of a sudden, it's this huge fish. And the guide has to use a net to bring it on board, and it flops around. And they get around to measuring and weighing it. I have hooked and reeled in from 135 feet deep a 14-pound salmon. This is by far the largest fish I have ever caught and probably will ever catch. fantastic. I am so happy. And I'm just laughing about it. And so I tell people at the table, this is how you're coming to eat this fish, which, by the way, you've eaten all of now. I have no more left. And so we go on and start talking about other things. And my friend from Chile, she just will not let it go. She's like, I don't get it. You are not the person that likes to fish. How can you do it? It seems so boring. And I don't know how many people out here fish. So, but you know probably what I'm going to say if you do fish. But for those of you that don't fish, you get outside. You're in nature. And nature controls much of what you do when you're fishing. It's outside of your control. I like that. It's challenging, but you have to adjust and you go forward. But you're outside. It's paying attention to the details that matter, getting it right, making those adjustments. But at the end of the day, I come home and I've had such a wonderful day. It's relaxing. It's one of the best things I can do. So to my friend from Chile, it's just a great experience. Okay, I'm sure you've all enjoyed hearing about my big salmon and how I learned to fish. But why am I talking about that salmon and fishing today? What does that mean when we're talking about leadership in uncertain times? A couple of things I look back on how I caught that particular salmon. Our guide had given us the right bait. We'd moved to the right spot. We'd adjusted for the current. But I still would not have caught that fish but for one particular act. On a boat of 16 people, a lot of activity going on, the guide made the time to notice that I was missing something, that I was not noticing when a fish was nibbling. He made the time and said something to me. And as a result, I was able to catch the biggest fish that I've ever caught. And I believe a successful fishing guide is also a very good leader. And if you have or we have some of those characteristics that guide or every successful fishing guide has, we will be good leaders. As an example, I talked about how nature controls what you do in fishing. Nature changes constantly. It's much like the business environment. You don't know what your competitors are going to do. You don't know what they're going to come out with. You don't know when we're going to have the financial triggers of 2008. My fishing guides can think about maybe it's going to rain, maybe what's going to bite, what the currents are going to change. But they don't know, but they're prepared. They adjust quickly. They explain to those who are with them why they're making the adjustments. I would not have caught that salmon without making those adjustments. The business world is like that. Attention to detail and recognizing that you're an example every single day in everything you do. That's a successful fishing guide, and that's a successful leader. I look at all the guides who have taken me out and every single time have to teach me to cast all over again. And I watch them casting. Even if they're not talking to me, I'm watching them casting and looking at every little thing they do. People follow leaders that way. Every little thing you do matters. So pay attention to the details. Most importantly, I've learned on my fishing trips that no matter the weather, no matter how wet, how cold, how rainy, even if I don't catch anything at all, if I have a really good guide, I come home at the end of the day feeling great and motivated and wanting to go out the next day and do it all over again. And that guide has motivated me as an individual. And as a leader, you have to recognize that your team members are individuals, and each of them are motivated differently, whether it's learning how to cast perfectly, whether it's taking home that fish, whether it's planning the next trip. Some team members want the individual recognition. They want a higher profile. Some may be motivated by flex time. Some may be motivated by career development plans, by challenging projects, by career rotation. You have to pay attention to those details and figure it out and respond. We all have our wet, cold, windy days in this environment, in our business. And that is never going to change. And it is going to be outside our control. So as leaders, we have to equip our team properly. Give them the right fishing rods and reels. Send them off with waders. Be prepared to show them the way. Make adjustments. Give them the individualized feedback they need. Because the ultimate goal is you want them to go home at the end of the day, but coming back the next day happy and motivated, and with you as their fishing guide for the next trip and the trip after that and the trip after that. So in closing, I just want to leave you with one question. When are you going fishing? Thank you.